On this episode of Star Trek Universe, we are discussing Star Trek, the original series, 104, Mud's Women, right after these words from our mystery sponsors. Welcome into Star Trek Universe, the podcast that has recently expanded from two guys who've been talking about Star Trek with each other since they were 6 years old to include an old Star Trek salt, I don't know what to call myself, and a young lass fresh to the Enterprise, Effie Ophelders.
Hi, I have never seen any of this.
Of course, I'm David C. Robertson, and I'm here. And we're talking about Mud's Women. The Enterprise rescues a con man named Harry Mudd who is trafficking in mail order brides. Pretty heavy material for episode 4.
Yeah, it's a wonderful way to phrase it. I saw the title and I was like, "Oh, this is promising in one way or another."
Yeah. You want to know something funny? This was one of the episodes, like the synopsis for this episode was one of the proposed ideas for the first pilot. Roddenberry tried to get it made as the second pilot.
Oh no. They were like, "This is the best we've got. This is the high standard we want to set for ourselves."
This is what Roddenberry wanted. He was like, "I know, space hookers."
Absolutely. I mean, the first pilot was hornier in many better ways, so I'm good with that.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, kind of, but not really. Like, it was more of a, they need to feed off of our emotions and understand how we work, and also she's alone and she needs someone, not just sexually, but you know.
Yeah, but it was pretty heavy on the let's bone.
Yeah, a little bit.
Come on. They want us to bone. Oh
yeah.
No, I'm stuck in a cage where I have to bone. Like, that feels like a hornier concept to me than human trafficking.
Well, yeah, but like they didn't literally have like every male crew member like drooling and sweating all over themselves because of like
exactly, which feels to be less horny and more creepy.
Oh, it was
just
that.
Like, oh god, okay, every man is just absorbed by these women walking around. It feels very like we've never seen a woman before, which of course is explained by the drugs, but it's very odd to have them like have everyone ogle them, and also for the guards of Mud's like you can't leave this room, but also you can have 3 female guests over all the time. We just step aside.
Yeah.
It's like something about this security seems off.
Absolutely. There is so much weird. Like, this is one of those like classic, really popular episodes. It is one of my least favorite episodes.
I get that.
I do enjoy it mostly for like Spock just like leaning against the wall, just like smirking, like,
yeah,
good
he's
God,
just like, this is sad. You are all sad. And I relate to that in this moment.
Absolutely. Oh man. So how do you feel about Mud? Because there's a lot of people who hate Harry Mudd as a villain. They think he's just so over the top.
I mean, yeah, but that's also kind of the point. Like, there's just everything about him screams, "Don't trust this douche." But also, that makes it feel so weird when no one is like, "Well, this is very, very wrong. What's happening here?" It's just like, no, you didn't have a license for your ship, and that's illegal, so... But there's no issue with calling his passengers cargo. There's no, like, it's literally, okay, are you human trafficking them? And is that fine in the future because they sort of seem to consent? And is no one like, based on his record, this, you should presume it's Stockholm Syndrome or something. Like, what? It feels very weird in the beginning where it's like, I don't know why they're with him. I don't feel good about why they're with him, and no one's doing anything.
But what can you do if they're all like, "No, we're doing this. We want to go. Like, we all came from shitty places and we want to go." Like, what are you going to tell them?
Yeah, I mean, they seem to be telling them that they're just going to have to stay on the ship because he's detained.
Right.
Tough luck. We're gonna drop you off somewhere, and you're gonna have to take care of your life like usual.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm sure there's some legal authorities in place that will help along, but it's a weird situation, especially because they're not really telling them why they're going somewhere to get married. It's icky in some ways, man.
Yeah.
And it very much leans into that we're only fit to be wives and then we'll be fulfilled. And there's very much the dehumanization of females in scare quotes, which, okay, fair enough. That was mostly the computer talking, but just the fact that they get no medical readings on them is in and of itself very, very dehumanizing, which is also not quite explained by the drugs. Like, you'd expect off readings, but it's just, we can't recognize these people as species. There's nothing. And and that's very much leading you to believe there's a far more alien explanation for what they are. Are they robots? What are they built? What is off?
Well, hold on.
And it's much simpler.
It's not that they didn't get medical readings, because all of the women refused medical scans.
Yeah.
What came back as negative is they had no record. They were not in the computer as ever having done anything wrong. So they had no record. And they all came from, like, backwater planets. So the Federation or whoever Starfleet didn't have records on who these people were.
Sure, but the computer suggests, like, 2 seconds later, like, we do have some weird readings on the male crew members who are, like, horny off their brains.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I was like, okay, were you trying to get a reading on them as well? Because to me, that came across as, we're trying to get some sort of physical, or are they lying reading and we just cannot get a pulse?
Well, McCoy's computer in sickbay definitely got some kind of weird reading.
Yeah, that's a different scene. And at that point, it's like, okay, that should also be weird.
Yeah.
But we don't really know why, because it's not a like, oh, these readings are off the scale and it's not quite right. It's the machine is fucked up because you walked past it. Like, it's just beeping red. Yeah,
is that machine male? Is that what's happening? Is like
probably that's it. The machines are also straight males. That is the issue here.
So I
think we figured it out.
There are glaring inconsistencies in this script. Yeah, and I don't know what to think about it. Like, they keep just trying to misdirect us and make us think, like, something weird's going on.
Yeah.
Okay. And then, like, they never really explained it. Like, I did like the scene where McCoy and Kirk are like, are they really as beautiful? Like, they can't be more beautiful than every other woman we've ever seen. Like, what is, something's going on.
Yeah, which is very true for me as well. Cause I'm sitting there thinking, like, they seem pretty regular actresses, and they're pretty, sure, but, like, so is every crew member we've seen. So
yeah,
except for the one who's, like, the man who is now replacing Bailey in the second seat next to Sulu. I don't know what was up with his face. That is the first actor I've seen and been like, okay, well, we downgraded, I guess. This one doesn't remind me of a young Kirk.
Yeah. This one is like some strange gangling mummy creature.
Yeah,
he's a weird looking dude.
He might have needed some braces or something. It's like there was something up with that.
I mean,
but aside from that, yeah, all the women are just pretty. So
yeah,
and that's also the funny thing where the drugs seem to have these. The Venus drugs have these huge side effects where they really feel like shit about themselves and their eyes look tired. And I'm like, you look pretty normal. Like, this is just you got rid of a layer of makeup, and that's really it.
Well, what's funny is, like, the two...
I was expecting them to really de-age them or something, but or up. I don't know what's the opposite. Like,
age them.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was just like, no, you have a couple wrinkles now. You look like a person.
For one of them, I will agree with you. For the girl who was really into Kirk, like, yeah, she just looked like a normal lady. The other two were like mummy wretches with like shit hanging off their faces, and they were like became crones.
Yeah, they were overacting a bit more, but I also feel like they didn't look that different. They just sort of messed up their hair, and that was it, or something.
They did mess up their hair. That was weird for me.
Yeah,
because like they take the drug
where
and
it's
they're
like,
oh,
how does
the hair is
the
back.
drugs give me a perfect hairdo? Like,
yeah,
it's a blow dry. Like, what?
Yeah, and then like, okay, so the drugs did the things, and then so did they actually have withdrawals? Because it seems like they're like in pain, but then like on the planet, old girl's not going through withdrawals. It's like, and then
it's just they're desperate to get back on it, but at the point where she's on the planet, she no longer wants to take them, so she's fine suddenly. But then there's also a placebo effect where it's like, okay, so were they just desperate to get back on the drugs because they felt like they weren't attractive anymore as themselves, or I don't know. It's because the drugs were definitely doing something, because everyone was very much infatuated.
Yeah.
But the placebo just served to tell her, like, you can still be seductive if you just fucking try and believe in yourself. Like,
right.
I had more thoughts about that scene than most others.
Here's my headcanon. Okay, the drugs really never made them more beautiful. We just saw them as everyone else saw them. What it really did was pump out super pheromones that just made everybody super horny.
That makes the most sense, honestly. Yeah. And you don't really need a lot of pheromones to make men horny. So really, at the end, it makes sense that he's like, yeah, you're sitting in my lap. Like, you can feel I am horny. We're good.
Yeah. I am very curious, and I've always been curious about this sort of society within Star Trek, because Star Trek is supposedly this utopian society on Earth, but then you also have it where it's like there are these women who are from strange worlds that are like these backwater planets, like awful places, it sounds like.
Yeah.
It almost feels like Firefly or something, where they're like, here's the core worlds where we're like really super like advanced and shit. But then there are like other places where like shit gets a little cray. Like where like here's some.
It feels like a third world. Like, we don't deal with those people. We can help.
Yeah,
them,
like
you
here.
know? There's no solution for their problems.
It's like we advanced, we met Vulcans and all these different species, and we advanced, and we don't really need much money, but we keep it around when we need to deal with your asses.
Exactly.
And those
Suddenly
people,
there's a whole lot of money in the Starfleet back pocket to buy some crystals.
Yeah, and then we have like, you know, out on the outer planets mining lithium, or like MAGA people for some reason. We're like,
it's not far off. Yeah, no, I get it.
Constantly about to beat a lady for not being pretty enough, and then going, I never touched her. You were clearly going to, though.
Yeah, like it didn't look good. Like, you keep saying that, but it's like, do you mean I because in that context it like also sounded halfway like, oh well, we didn't fuck, so like I don't owe you nothing, and that's why I'm being rude as shit. Like, it's and then when he says when they barge in, it's like either I was gonna hit her in the face, or it's like, I didn't touch her because she's the merchandise and I haven't paid yet. Like, what is the thing here?
Yeah, I don't know, but the whole thing makes me uncomfortable.
Absolutely. And then there's this whole quote-unquote empowering speech where she's asserting her value as a woman through these very gendered virtues of like, I cook, I clean, I care, I cry, you know, that sort of like, that's what you need a wife for. And I'm like, if that's all we're good for, I'm sorry, let's just skip over everything. Let's just not do any of it. Like, like, I'm not sure that's much better than your use being hot and selfish and getting fucked. Like, you're still getting fucked in a different way, so I don't know.
Which is, you know, she said that she came from this, like, planet where she was, like, it was just her and her brothers, and all she did was, like, cook and clean and clean up after him.
Yeah, like, how is this going to be a better life if your marriage is like, I have one guy to take care of now, and he doesn't really, like... And I somewhat appreciated that, where he's apprehensive, like, okay, he doesn't need a wife, he's been cooking for himself, he's fine, but then also immediately becomes extremely hostile at the implied suggestion that he can't take care of himself and needs her to cook. And then is also proven wrong by the fact that she can cook better.
Yeah.
He's like, it's probably going to taste like shit. And oh, fuck, this is better. You know,
Yeah.
It's like, how is this the utopian vision of women are people too? No, it's very much still stuck in the, like, women are good for, you know, the household. And
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
like, good damn.
Of course, you could headcanon it and say, because this is very much like, these are people on the outskirts of society. These are,
Sure.
you know, strange weirdos and whatnot out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, but that also feels like a class difference you're creating then. Because, like, yeah, we have the utopia on Earth, but everyone out there is
Oh, yeah.
sort of less evolved and therefore stupid. So let's... you know, devalue them as people because they're still stuck in those ancient ways of, I guess. But there's a correlation there between intelligence and development and ignorance that like that leading to being less emancipated, where it's like, I'm not sure that's the issue in current society. There's a lot of rich, intelligent, white assholes who are very upper class and still very sexist. So it's yeah.
Well, I couldn't.
Like, I feel like that's sort of missing the point.
I'm not sure how rich these guys are, because it looks like they don't have a pot to piss in. But Mud kept saying that they were so rich.
Yeah, I feel like they have a lot of money and they can't do shit with it because they have to live in a hole to earn that money.
Yeah,
where it's like, what do you get out of this life? Like, can you go off-world for a week out of the year and then have a fucking party in some casino planet? Like, I like, what's the use of being filthy rich if you're mostly just filthy?
Yeah, I don't know. These, man, it's interesting. This is what, it's one of those things that, like, they never really touch much on. Every once in a while we'll see some, like, dirty ass scavenger running around smuggling shit with, getting up with some Klingons in the background. And you're like, what is your life? Why is this a thing?
What's the use of this galactic economy anyway? Like, we haven't heard anything about the currency yet, right? But still, there's just, what do you do with more money? What is there to do out there? Besides not dying from sandstorms. I felt that cut was weird, by the way. There was, like, the moment where Kirk is running after her, and then he's suddenly on the ship again, and those two are out there, and the miner rescues the woman. But
I feel like he smartly just, like, went back and was like, beam me up.
Yeah. Like, that's implied, but it's also not shown in any substantial way.
I think there is... What's fun is, like, there's this idea that, like, Star Trek is all, like, this, like, utopia where they don't need money and all this stuff. But then repeatedly over the course of all of the shows, we keep seeing, like, no, they're, like, smugglers and vagabonds and space hookers.
There's money to be made. Yeah.
There's money to be made. Like, like Riker carries Relden gold press latinum just in case he, like, goes to DS9 and has to, like, play a game of Dabo or something. Like, you need to get something out of somebody, like, got to pay them a little bit, Federation doesn't use money, but other people do.
Yeah, apparently.
There are all sorts of different, cultures and stuff, but still, even though we've seen all that stuff, there are fans who are like, but the Federation's not supposed to be bad or have money, and people don't have conflict, because Roddenberry said, sorry, original series had plenty of conflict.
Write that in.
No, tons of conflict in the original series.
Yeah.
Tons. I almost feel like he decided that. I mean, well, he did decide that well after the original series was over, but I almost felt like he, like, was like, I know I'm dying soon. I don't want any Star Trek to be as good as when I was writing it. So I say there's no conflict in the future between humans. So you can't write compelling drama.
Yeah. No, that's a good good way to retcon that shit. Yeah.
But yeah, like new Star Trek, they're always running around on like planets where it's like there are drug addicts. Like there's like there's plenty of conflict. Course. Like they have just said, "Sorry, Gene, we're gonna go with the conflict."
Yeah, but also we're in episode 4 and there's drugs, so there's a lot of illicit trade going on here. He's smuggling all types of shit.
Also, like in the 90s when that was like such a big thing of like there's no conflict between the humans in Starfleet, there were just like 2 characters on DS9 who never got that memo, and they were mildly homophobic. One of them was mildly racist. Like one of them was very open to being like, "I love you," and he's like, "I love my wife. Go away." Like,
oh God,
they're 2 of my favorite characters. They're ridiculous, but they're really great. They have their issues, and I was like, "Yay, interesting humans on Star Trek again. Flawed characters.
That'd be neat." Yeah, like you gotta have something.
Aside from the
people,
occasional guy who's just having sex with recreations of women on the Enterprise in the holographic, chamber there. That's a thing.
When do we find out about that? Because that seems weird. Yeah,
that's Next Generation, where they're like, Mr. Barclay is spending too much time in the holodeck, and they go down there, and he's got like really sexed up versions of like the Doctor and the Counselor, and oh my God.
Oh goodness.
Yeah, it's fun.
It is what would happen, though.
Yeah.
It's better than harassing the actual women in your workplace. Oh.
Yeah, well,
Slight
he doesn't.
Improvement.
Yeah, he doesn't have
Utopia.
He doesn't have the guts to even talk to a woman and be like, "Hi, I think you're pretty. You want to go out sometime?" He's not. He's like that dude. Yeah. So he's just nervous and like all fumbly, like, "Oh, I don't."
I've built an Android version for myself. I'll just fuck the holograms, like that type of attitude. Yeah.
There was this great comedian. I don't like years ago. I don't remember his name. He was in the documentary Trekkies, where he was talking about. He was doing this at a con. He was stand up, and he was like, "Man, they had a 14-year-old on the Enterprise D with the holodeck. They would not be able to pry me out of the holodeck when I was 14. They would like have to like." Phaser their way in, and be like, "Wesley," and I would just be like in the middle of like a gigantic vagina, and they're like, "You need help. This is sick. Where's Counselor Troy?" "This is Counselor Troy." It was a fantastic bit. It was really funny, but
that sounds good. Yeah,
it
makes sense if you invent that type of a technology. Yeah. Like, people will always use shit for porn. That's how it works.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, porn, is the thing that drives the innovation of these technologies. Yeah. I did like when Eve says, "You go halfway across the sound of male ego. You travel halfway across the galaxy, and it's still the same song."
Yes,
that was
like. I agree. I know, like, this feeling I have had before. This, yeah, that was well done.
But yeah,
and what I actually also liked in like if we're picking like cherry picking the bits of feminism we did appreciate, like Kirk actually checks with her at the end when the dude is speaking for the both of them. He's like, yeah, and Eve, like, is he correct in speaking for the both of you? I want your opinion if you want to stay here, because that's kind of what I'm asking, and he should not speak for you. That was like, yeah, thank you for just asking the person you're talking to.
Yeah, I loved that. I was like, yay, because that guy was like, "We have some things we want to talk about." I'm like, "No, dude, y'all ain't had no conversation. Y'all ain't had no conversation. Yeah. You don't know.
You didn't, like, you exchanged glances and now you're trying to say what she wants? Fuck off."
Yeah, absolutely. I do love that Kirk offered to appear as a character witness for Harry if you think that'll help, and he's like, "They'll throw away the key."
Yeah, that was a good gag. And I'm like, no, that makes sense because you've done basically nothing to redeem yourself.
Yeah. And of course, later when Spock says, the fact that my internal arrangement differs from yours, Doctor, pleases me no end.
Just the like his heart is on his left flank or something. It's
like where our spleen would be, I guess.
Sure. It's just somewhere between the ribs and the lung and whatever is there for him. Yeah.
Yeah. So what was I about to say? God, I miss. Okay. What do you love how like they just completely dropped that whole like Mudd is going to try to take over the Enterprise thing and he's going to be the captain?
Yeah, I wrote that down. I was like, okay, did you just need a cut to commercials moment of like, ha evil laugh and like he never does anything to like pursue that goal. It's just a threat of like, I'll be the captain of this ship, and it's like, no, at no point is there a plan to do that because you don't know how to get to that point.
I feel like that scene was perfect and it made me laugh, but it's
hilariously
he
over
was
the top.
Yeah, and he was still totally just like being like, no, Lee, my name is Lee Walsh. Yeah, he was still like pretending to be somebody else. So it would have been great if he's like, I'll be the captain of this ship, and then they just cut to like, as he's laughing, they just cut directly to him sitting there as they're like, all right, Harcourt Fenton Mudd, you're in prison, buddy. We're taking you in. Like,
yeah, that's not good. You can't just say that.
Yeah, like just, or maybe it wasn't. Well, maybe they already did.
It was right after he had his, like they had found his records. It was after the hearing, and then he started laughing and used his actual name in that line. It was
okay, yeah, that's right.
Harcourt, whatever his middle name was, Mudd. Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. I just there was no need for that. They never went back for it. There was never
it makes no sense.
An opportunity for him to ever gain power of any kind.
No, it's just like he wanted to get paid by a bunch of rich miners, and it's a fun subversion that the miners are supposedly rich, even though that means nothing. But it's like how he would ever take over the Enterprise makes no sense. It is very clever that throughout the episode it turns out, he's just getting information from all of these guys through the girls who were like, let me talk to you for a second. Now I've heard this and this, and you know everything that's happening on the ship. Like, that's clever. Why he sends one of them to, I don't know, throw herself at Kirk, I wasn't entirely sure.
Oh, well, that's how he was going to get control of the ship, is through her, I bet. And then it was going to be like, well, I couldn't go through with it. I couldn't lay pipe with the captain, and then I was going to be captain.
Right.
Because that's how that works.
That almost makes sense. Sure.
You have like 450 people on board the Enterprise is just going to let you take and sure. Yeah. Not to mention
you're just gonna stand next to the chair and be like, "Say this, honey."
Yeah. You're not to mention the Vulcan who on the ship who has no interest in any of these women. Yep. And he's just going to walk over and slap you. Just like
that. I feel like that. I'm glad they didn't film that, but
yeah,
it's a utopia. We get to slap women now. They're fully equal.
No, I was talking about him slapping Mudd, you know?
Oh, right. Yeah, that works too.
Yeah.
That's more, I would have loved to see that. No, I was picturing her on the bridge with Kirk and Spock walking over being like, no, we're not doing this. It's like, sorry, very different scene. Slapping Mudd is always allowed.
I can't remember, but I want to say there's a shot of Kirk kissing a woman and then punching her.
Do I even want to know?
I'm not 100%. I don't remember exactly if that's true.
Oh my goodness. We'll get there if it's ever, anywhere in reality, then we'll discover it.
Yeah. You got anything else on your thoughts or?
No, it's mostly just the weird ass ending where I'm like, okay, so vanity is being selfish, but like I like they're going for some sort of choose personhood over beauty, and A, I'm like, why can't you do both? And B, why is personhood the same as cooking? Like, why is it being a good housewife? Why is that the extent of our imagination?
Because it was the 60s.
I know. I'm trying to see it in that era, which is why I'm not mad at it. I'm just
It was 1966.
very confused by it. Yeah.
I mean, he and Harry
It's
even
just not
like,
quite what they think they're doing, and that's very funny in hindsight.
Yeah, I do like the overall message. You're only one kind of woman or man, for that matter. You either believe in yourself or you don't. Because I know I'm the kind that don't.
Yeah,
you know?
And I'm trying to get to like shake you out of that occasionally. Where I'm like, dude, you're fine. Shut the fuck up.
I'm like, no, you don't understand.
I live off my own self-deprecation.
People's pity empowers me. Let me soak it up.
Yeah, and then you start whipping yourself again, and I'm like, God damn it, Dave.
Well, sometimes that's for pleasure. No.
Gross. How dare we?
I know.
Don't kink shame, but like, we went too far there.
So like I told you, this was on the docket for the second pilot. NBC, according to this is all according to various, this is actually according to Inside Star Trek, the real story, but it's cited on Memory Alpha. NBC chose not to air this episode as the second pilot, mostly because they were worried about the central theme of, quote, selling women throughout the galaxy.
Yeah, I can see why.
And the guest stars being, quote, an intergalactic pimp and 3 space hookers, end quote.
I mean, they're not entirely wrong. It's very much the problem with this episode.
Now, teleplay writer Stephen Kandel recalled of this episode, quote, Gene had the idea of using a personal enhancer allure drug, and I provided the character of Harry Mudd. We spent an afternoon talking about it, and out of the conversation evolved the story idea, and then, of course, I wrote the story. Gene went over it in great, meticulous, and obsessive detail, and then I wrote the script. That was from Starlog issue 117. And a story memo excerpted in the Making of Star Trek, this is associate producer Robert H. Justman wrote, on page 55, we see Benton riding a digging machine toward his cabin. Let's eliminate this device right now. I just love that because they were just like reading the script and being like, too expensive.
Yeah, we're not doing that effect. Like, Christ,
right?
What do you think we are made of money? we have to paint some new rocks. We're done.
Yeah. You talking about black and white televisions. I thought this was interesting. Jerry Finnerman was encouraged to be creative in choosing dramatic lighting and camera angles. Bob Justman recalled that he said to Finnerman, we are all in outer space, Jerry, and we're in color. NBC claims to be the first full-color network, so let's prove it to them. When you light the sets, throw wild colors in, magenta, red, green, any color you can find, especially behind the actors when they're in a close shot. Be dramatic. In fact, go overboard. Backlight the women and make them more beautiful. Take some chances. Nobody can tell you that's not the way the future will look. How can they? They ain't been there yet.
Yeah, that shows in some scenes where you're like, okay.
Yeah. That's,
and it works. It's
fun. It's fun.
Yeah.
So this and Where No Man Has Gone Before are the only episodes where the crystals that power the Enterprise are called lithium crystals. Throughout the rest of the show, they will be called dilithium crystals.
Oh, okay.
So
good to know.
Get ready for that. Your world's going to be rocked.
Yeah, I'm immediately going to have to forget everything I know already. Yeah.
Yeah. And this is my favorite piece of trivia here for this episode. NBC program manager Jerry Stanley recalled that, quote, one of the problems we had was in trying to talk Roddenberry out of some of his sexual fantasies that would come to life in the scripts. Some of these scenes he would describe were totally unacceptable. William Shatner noted, quote, NBC allowed Mudd's women to be produced at all is still a minor miracle.
That's delightful. I love that type of just admitting, like, yeah, I don't know how he got through the 60s censorship to get to, like, this level. Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Jane got away with
Which
some
is
shit.
probably why no one could say anything about it, because it had to be somewhat, no, this is fine, this is normal. We're not doing an actual human trafficking hooker story. No. They're not sex workers. It's fine.
You know what? I will bet you anything. Roddenberry got away with it by arguing with the standards people. Like, no, I mean, why is this not okay? But it's okay to have, insert Western where, there's Miss Kitty and her hookers in the saloon. That's probably how they got away with it. Because, as I recall, he first pitched Yeoman Rand as an intergalactic Miss Kitty.
Oh, goodness. Well, I'm glad that doesn't quite, work out the way he intended it so far.
I'm not sure that he intended it that way necessarily. He also, pitched the show just to sell it. He pitched it as Wagon Train to the Stars. Wagon Train was a popular Western show. So...
Okay.
I think he was just really trying to be like, it's space, but it's also a Western.
That thing that still sells before it dies later.
Yeah. Back then, it was a big thing, so.
Yeah.
Now you would be like, it's like a superhero movie, but in space.
Basically. Which happens often enough, so really, someone has used that pitch.
Actually, for TV, it'd probably be like, it's like CSI in space.
I feel like that covers a lot of ground. There's got to be I feel like both of those pitches could be Legends of Tomorrow. It's
it's homicide, life on a planet.
Yeah, people try to combine some ideas and into new ones. It's not always a success.
Yeah. I honestly think that Roddenberry just lied a lot. He lied all
Probably.
the time.
You could get away with that. Just be confident.
Yeah, whatever.
That's the moral of this story. Just fucking fake it.
Yeah. You have to believe in yourself. You have to fake it to make it. And also, of course, some problems have no solutions. You have to just learn to let go.
That is the moral that will stick with us throughout the ages. Yeah. Confidence makes you hot, and let go of your problems.
Pheromone drugs. That's what I say. That's what I need in my everyday life. Don't look at me with that judgment, kid.
That's what you actually want. I feel like that's not a thing.
I want everyone who looks at me to feel like they're looking through a greased lens. The twinkles in me eyes.
Is that what you were putting on the webcam? That explains so much.
No, that was lube. That's for later. I can't. No, our healthcare system sucks. I need a colonoscopy. I'm just gonna stick it up there myself.
That explains a lot. Yep. No, that makes sense. Checks out. Anytime you bring up the U.S. healthcare system, I'm like, figures. You gotta do it some way,
Yeah, I'm thinking about becoming a lithium miner. Some of the. I hear those guys make bank.
I'm sure it's well paid if you're not priced out by child slaves in certain countries. I don't know.
Child slave? Well, Jesus, you got dark.
Yeah, they're tiny. They're way easier to use in mines.
Right.
The world
they
is
all look
fucked
like Baylock.
We're not at the utopian level so far. So we have a ways to go.
It's interesting you bring up children working in mines. Because that's where one of the newer series, Star Trek Prodigy, starts off, which is an animated show.
Get out.
Is an animated show.
I am predicting the future.
I know. Is an animated show aimed at kids. But John Noble is this piece of shit who enslaves unwanted children and makes them work in mines.
You can get away with so much shit in children's fiction.
I know.
It's always messed the fuck up. But no one cares because it's kids will handle it.
Yeah, and I think the trick is you got to be British because they bring in John Noble and he's like, "Yes, bring me more of the unwanted. They will go into the mines."
they're always going to be like, it's not quite Dickens, you know? It's still not as bad as Oliver Twist. Like, you know, the kids won't cry that much, so it'll be fine.
Like, if it's an American... Like, Ezra Miller puts a baby in a microwave in one scene and people are flipping out online.
Damn, yeah.
But if he was British, they'd be like, oh, that's whimsical. It's just a bit of a children's tale, that's all.
Yeah, that makes sense. No, it's oh God. It's just there's so many worse things in that movie and people are like upset about the microwave. Like, I was like, I'm not sure that works. It's a metal box that is going to get hit with a flamethrower. I'm pretty sure the baby's still going to be toast. But okay.
Yeah.
But there's worse things in that movie.
Well, if he had moved
into that.
But if he had moved the kid like he was supposed to, like he had to have otherwise, like he would have melted the baby. So with, you know,
no,
his speed, that was the whole point.
I get it, but there was a way to just put the microwave in between instead of around. Like, that's funnier. I get it.
Omit the scene. I hate the scene. The whole scene sucks.
Oh yeah, it looks like shit. So, but also it's the only thing he does really, because before that he's like tying up giant tubes in the basement, and I'm like, why are we looking at this?
Yep.
So yeah.
Actually,
I'm not sure why they blew up the entire underground. Like, I didn't quite get what Falcons, but anyway.
Yeah, I don't know about all that.
Not the thing we're talking about on this podcast.
Right.
That's for after.
I did just make the point that I'm pretty sure like all the babies with like needles and glass and shit coming at them all represented like different problems that he had to solve at the same time. Which is, and of course he saves all of them, but that was like foreshadowing of like the problem he would have later in the movie where he literally couldn't save anything. Anyway.
That sounds like a good idea that wasn't executed that well.
No. I'm a Star Trek fan. I can make all sorts of shit sound good. No.
Yeah.
No, it's not good. All right. Thank you so much for listening. Are you good? Are you
I think
finished?
I am. I think I got out of my system what I needed to get out of my system.
All right. Yeah. Just remember, take it. It's not a cheat. It's a miracle for some man who can appreciate it and who needs it. Alrighty. So, thanks for listening, everyone. We'll be back soon. Joe Lontrue, live long and prosper. You got a word?
Not a reference yet. I'm not far enough to know anything fun like that. I'm just gonna say
you
bye.
You don't have to say no reference.
Yeah,
don't just say a reference. No, you can
bye.
just you could just say eat a dick. I don't know.
My new catchphrase. Bye, eat a dick.
Thank you for listening to the Star Trek Universe Podcast, a Stranded Panda production. If you'd like to hear more from David C. Robertson, check out the DC On Screen podcast or maladjusted.tv for his web videos. If you'd like to hear more from Matthew Carroll, check out the Marvel Cinematic Universe podcast or listen to his music. Just search for Matthew Carroll anywhere you get music.